So, Chapter 10, A New World. I woke up late the next morning. There was little light that made its way into the gray box. I spent the night in, and maybe I had grown used to the eerie quietness, because the lack of life, the lack of noise no longer upset me, and I slept well. Actually, scratch that. I say that I wasn't upset and I was well rested, but at the same time, when I thought about it, I still longed for the incessant chatter of insects and birds that had not long ago annoyed me to no end. And there was something that did not feel quite right about the way these gray boxes were set up. If something like this is provided for free for all to use, why would anyone ever want to do anything except stay in their comfortable box? What incentive is there to leave these gray boxes? I wondered aloud. Many never do, the AI said matter of factly. But not me, I said. I was determined not to let that be me. Good for you, the AI said. So, do you need help with anything before you head out? I'm guessing you still cannot give me advice, right? I asked. That would be beyond my capabilities. All humans are inherently alone and must make their own destinies, the voice said. I sighed. But that's not true, I said. I thought the computer would argue with me, but instead they said, I suppose we just have different philosophies of life then. Okay, I said. Can we talk about something else then? Do you have any idea where my mother would have been headed? Need more information, the AI said. What is her name and what is your name? Her name was Wandering Moon, I said. I am called Cloudy Sky. The computer paused. I register no humans with these names, so I cannot help you with that, the voice said. But can I provide you with some refreshments? From the wall, a cucumber-infused water and vaguely cheesy-smelling soup arrived. My mouth watered. I think the AI had sensed I was hungry. Maybe you could stay and study, the voice said. With more information comes more options. Is that advice? I asked. Are you trying to tempt me? Of course not, the AI said. I just sensed that you were hungry, and it seemed logical that studying would offer more options. Really? I asked. Really, the voice said emphatically. I am only offering suggestions. Suggestions based on the patterns of things that provided useful to others in the past. That proved useful to others in the past. A pattern based on your skin temperature and stress feedback signs. I wanted to defy the AI in every way, but at the same time I had to admit that I was indeed very hungry. So I sipped the water and tasted the soup. Not bad. A bit bland and tasting of wood, but not bad. So, something that proved useful to others. I'm guessing you mean the people that live here, I said. That is sound reasoning, it said. I base my observations on patterns. Now, what can I help you with? I sighed with frustration. How was I going to trick this machine? I muttered to myself. What was that? The AI asked. I breathed in and out, trying to calm my mind, like they taught me in the forest. If you cannot offer advice, maybe you can point me in the right direction, I said. I wasn't really angry. I think I was worried about staying here too long and becoming too comfortable. I needed to keep moving. Others in your position may wish to travel further east, the voice said, because that is the direction that Alpha City lies in. Alpha City? What am I going to find there? I asked. Depends what you are looking for, the voice said, although there are many humans here. Now, take a look at the map. I looked at the wall where the computer somehow projected a map of the city. There were labels with things like factory, bar, school, hospital, office, and more, and a road, aptly named the Great Road, leading right into the city. I knew that some of these things were I knew what some of these things were, but some of them seemed like made up words. Just what is a factory? So where shall I go first? I asked. Again, you know I cannot tell you that, the voice said. Right, I said, because that would be advice. Interfering with free will, probably, but you can tell me what others would do. Based on the history of others who traveled to the city, they usually visited the Great Library and some of the museums, the voice said. Thank you, I said. I wasn't sure a library was what I needed. We had libraries back in Zebra Nation, but this was a start. There's no need to thank me, Cloudy Sky, the AI said. I know, I said, but I still want to. I walked out of the gray box, which was even stranger than I remembered from the outside. It was so dead and artificial and plain looking. I felt sad, knowing I had slept the night there instead of one of the lovely tree houses or cob or stone houses back in Zebra Nation. Excuse me. I was still thirsty, though, and I thought about going back inside and getting another drink, but then decided against it because I worried I would get lured back in and stay half the day. And it was already hot, and I could not afford to waste any more time. In the forest, the shade always protected you, that and the fog from the ocean. But here, the air itself burned like fire. But I was not going to stop now. No more procrastinating. I looked at the road. It was nothing but rocks and dust. Some great road. Scattered among the landscapes were more gray houses and various rods and debris. I couldn't believe this was the road of some advanced civilization. Still, there was no time to waste. It was still morning, but already hot. I knew the day would get even hotter by midday. And sure enough, as the day wore on, I started to sweat under my thick tunic when the sun rose in the sky. There was little shade, and I had to be careful of the rocks that would burn my skin if I touched them with my barely shod feet. I inspected some of the rods that littered the landscape, standing taller than the tallest cacti. Some of them hummed and were hot to the touch, but I had no idea what they were there for, so I ignored them and kept walking. It was an oddly quiet trek. The cacti along the road were either drowsy or sleeping, and all around uninterested in me. About midday, I found a few underground moles. Can you help me with some water? I asked. They just growled in response. Given my history with animals out here, I was no longer surprised. I tried whistling for an iku because I was starting to realize the city was much further still than I expected, and I may not fare well on this trek if I just kept walking in the desert sun. A few horned animals galloped my way moments later, then almost trampled me. I was dumbfounded. I had never experienced anything like that in all my years in the living forest. But these were not domestic or semi-domestic ikus. They were some related species and wild ones too. Perhaps elk or moose. I needed to be more careful. I walked on regardless. I considered stopping again at one of the gray houses for water, but then I noticed that they had become very sparse and I would have to trek back several miles to the last one. And I was not about to waste time going back now. As the sun continued to burn my neck, I took off my tunic, hoping to cool myself by placing it on my head. But that only caused my upper back to burn as well. A few sun turnings later, exhausted, I sat by a cactus, getting what little shade and water I could from it. I stood up, and I guess I didn't realize how tired I was because as I did, I became dizzy, fell to the ground, and lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in another nondescript gray box, lying on a similar nondescript bed. I rubbed my back and was surprised it wasn't burned anymore. I groaned and rubbed my face, surprised that I actually felt okay overall. You're lucky I found you when I did, a voice said. A moment later, a young woman with fiery eyes, wearing a silvery, shining robe, came in with a drink. You need your electrolytes, she said. My what? I asked. Your electrolytes, minerals. You lost a lot of water and salt out there in the desert. I was able to cure your sunburn and my electrogun was able to massage your muscles to recovery, but replacing electrolytes takes time, she said. I don't understand, I said. Just drink, she said. What kind of herb did you use to cure my sunburn? I asked. She laughed. It was a loud, oddly intonal laugh. No herb, she said. I am not a savage. This was good old-fashioned chemistry. I leapt up and hugged her. Thank you, I said. She kicked me back to the bed. What are you doing? She asked. I just wanted to hug you and say thank you, I said. She looked at me, confused. That's the way primitives act, she said, doing things like that. We have evolved past that in Alpha Nation. I'm not from Alpha Nation, I said. That is becoming more obvious, she said. She was quiet and studied me for a good minute. That would explain why you went outside without a heat shield or robe and only have some idiotic wool tunic for clothing, she said. I'm sorry, I said. It doesn't matter. Your clothes need to change if you want to survive, she said. What's wrong with my clothes? I asked, looking down. She laughed. They are impractical here, but now that I've studied them more thoroughly, it's become ever more obvious that you are from Zeta Nation, she said. Zebra Nation, I corrected her. You're free to wear those things if you want, but you'll get much further if you wear a robe like mine, she said. She then pushed an invisible button on the wall, and a silver robe like hers came from the wall. It's kind of ugly, I said. It's practical, she said. Isn't that what matters, or would you rather wear something you like the look of and die in the desert? I grabbed the robe and started to take off my pants. What are you doing? She yelled, in shock, then ran out of the room. She paced back and forth and talked to an AI to help her calm down. The AI gave her some sort of pill and reminded her of the vagus nerve stimulation that her temporal implant could facilitate. She thanked the AI just as I finished the changing. I'm done, I yelled. Did I do something wrong? I asked. Just more uncivilized behavior. Undressing in front of others is very inappropriate, she said. I didn't know, I said. Well, that's obvious. You have so much to learn, she said. Now, stop apologizing. It's unnecessary. Just don't make these same mistakes again. Now, are you ready to be on your way? It was nice to meet you, or whatever, but I really need to get back to my work. What's your name? I asked. Rebecca 99X, she said, but it doesn't matter. Are you ready? My name is Cloudy Sky, I said. I didn't ask, she said. So, what's the work you were doing? I asked. She sighed. I'm out here studying the stars and the fabric of space-time mostly. It's quieter and it's easier to see the stars if you're far away from the city, she said. Oh, wow, I said. I love the stars. I'm a whisperer and a seer, or at least I was where I used to live. The animals all watch the stars at night. I can talk to them, you know, I said. I did not ask for your life story, Rebecca said. Now, be on your way. You're not joining me? I asked. I have to get back to my work, she said, pointing away from the house. Okay, I said, but I think you should know I come from Zebra Nation, not Zeta Nation. Simple dress, immodesty, talking to animals. It's Zeta Nation, named for the last letter of the old alphabet, the least of us all, she said. Is everyone in Alpha Nation so obsessed with work and so cold? I asked. I'm not obsessed with work, and I am not cold. The world is cold, Cloudy Sky, she said, and turned her back on me to do something to a computer monitor on the back of the building. I left through the front door. The shimmering robe was much more comfortable than my tunic, and kept me perfectly dry and cool, despite the scorching sun. I wanted to thank her, to hug her again. I have so much to ask her, so much I need to know about Alpha Nation, I mumbled to myself. Okay, this is going to have to be continued.